Coming up on Nightly News, 2 Greek chapters are facing interim suspension after hosting unapproved social gatherings, and residents from 3 UCF sororities are under quarantine as COVID cases increase.
Also, we see how Knights Helping Knights Pantry is adapting to new COVID-19 policies.
And this week marks the halfway point of this year's hurricane season. Find out more about UCF's Arboretum's hurricane plan.
Nightly News starts now.
Good afternoon and welcome to Nightly News. I'm Hector García de León.
And I'm Brendan Schaefer. Today is Friday, September 11th, 2020. Today, we honor the lives lost on September 11th, 2001, and the millions of Americans that were affected by that tragic day. This year marks the 19th anniversary of the terrorist attack on the United States. New York Governor Andrew Cuomo says the annual Tribute and Light display in New York City will take place tonight despite concerns for worker safety during the pandemic. The Orlando Fire Department will also be having a virtual 9/11 remembrance and candlelight ceremony tonight at 7 on Facebook. The COVID-19 pandemic continues to spread across the country and our community. Here is your coronavirus update. UCF reports a total of over 400 positive cases since campus reopened for the semester. That's an increase of over 40 since last week, locally. As of today, the Florida Department of Health reports Orange County now has over 37,000 positive cases and an additional 15 deaths since last week. And nationally, Johns Hopkins University reports over 6.3 million cases and over 191,000 deaths.
2 Greek chapters are facing interim suspensions after hosting unsafe social gatherings, and 79 residents from 3 UCF sororities are in quarantine after the university linked 16 positive coronavirus cases to Greek Park this week. Sisters of Zeta Tau Alpha, Kappa Alpha Theta, and Alpha Epsilon Phi are under a 2-week quarantine to limit the spread of the virus. An update posted on the UCF website Tuesday says the university is aware some students choose to ignore university policies and health measures over Labor Day weekend. Vice President of Student Development and Enrollment Services, Maribeth Ihaz, says organizations who don't follow the rules will face consequences.
Because what choices a student makes really impact the other students that they're with. But it's off campus where everyone's definitely on their own. There are, other enticements.
University officials say Zeta Tau Alpha and fraternity Sigma Alpha Epsilon are suspended from hosting large social gatherings both on and off campus with disregard for university health guidelines. UCF administration encourages students and faculty to report misconduct online through the UCF Integrity Line. If coronavirus has you missing nightlife, listen up. There's a new twist on bar capacities. The Florida Department of Business and Registration officials now say that bars and other businesses selling alcohol for drinks on site can operate at 50% capacity. Drink and socialize responsibly nights.
University officials are adapting to new Title IX rules which can affect how they handle allegations and investigations of sexual assault and harassment on campus. The new regulations are mandated by the U.S. Department of Education. Title IX is a federal civil rights act that prohibits discrimination based on sex. However, the new regulations narrow the definition of what is considered sexual harassment. Additional changes include requiring live hearings, providing each party an advisor for cross-examination, and offering resources and services to students involved. Title IX coordinator Matt Rickey says the federal government wants to protect students' due process rights.
Our policies have always been neutral and impartial, and they continue to be, so they're not weighted toward the complainant nor the respondent. There are certain due process protections, though, that an accused individual has, and that's a matter of the law, right?
Rickey says university officials do not want these changes to discourage victims from coming forward. The university has several non-discrimination and student conduct policies, which are not affected by Title IX changes.
A recent survey done by one class shows that students across the country have concerns about the cost of tuition and the quality of education they are now receiving due to being remote. UCF Nightly News reporter Kai Rodriguez tells us more.
According to the survey, out of about 13,600 students, 93% of them believe that tuition should be lowered if they are going to be online. 75% of them are not happy with the quality of online classes, and 35% have even considered withdrawing from classes. Senior printmaking major Madison Banish says the added learning distance fee is unfair.
They added on that distance learning fee for the classes that were pushed to be online without really giving us a choice. So I already know, I'm going to receive less financial aid back to myself, which is what I rely on, and it's incredibly frustrating.
Banish adds that being remote causes students to lose out on the experience of collaborating with one another, as well as an added cost for supplies that would have been available if classes were not remote. Since tuition is not being lowered and in some cases fees have been added, students are feeling frustrated with tighter budgets and less experience. First-year criminal justice major Munse Nisa Garvez says she is upset having to pay for things she can't use on campus.
That the receipt and broke it down and what they're trying to charge me, and I'm like, that's a lot though, because I'm not on campus. I don't get to have the privilege to go to the gym or,
Since the college experience is completely different from the past, a statement put out by UCF says they are rethinking the entire college experience in a virtual world. In Orlando, Kai Rodriguez, UCF Nightly News.
UCF is still hosting events. However, most of them are online. For more information on remote events you can attend, visit events.ucf.edu.
Orange County's recent relief program is aiming to help tenants who are unable to pay their rent. Nightly News reporter Stephen Parchment has more on the story.
COVID-19 eviction diversion program aims to reduce eviction cases in Orange County by providing both tenants and landlords with up to $4,000 in past due rent. To qualify, the tenant must be at least 2 months behind on rent and have a documented proof of loss of income due to COVID-19. $20 million in funding is being provided from the Federal CARES Act and the State Corona Relief Fund. UCF student Patrick Rodriguez signed up after learning about the program from his landlord. Rodriguez recently lost his job and says that he is struggling to pay rent.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially as a college student with the way tuition is right now, it's extremely difficult to, meet all my bills.
Orange County Mayor Jerry Demings gave an update on eviction cases this week, highlighting the success of the program so far.
So far, 419 landlords will be paid back rent through the program, preventing their tenants from being evicted. The average arrears of payments is now at about $2,900 for each household.
Mayor Demings is also encouraging for more residents to sign up for the program. As for Rodriguez, he hopes to hear back from the program soon and urges the federal government to continue with their financial support.
The federal government stepping in and getting to the plate and doing its job is one of the most vital parts of society right now.
In Orlando, Stephen Parchment, UCF Nightly News.
The sign-up for the program is available at ocfl.net. Applications are still open. Now for a peek at what's going on outside. Stephen, how's the weather looking today?
AccuWeather says today our current temperature is 88 degrees with 90% humidity. The wind is coming from northeast at about 6 miles per hour. There's a 60% chance of rain, so have your umbrellas handy just in case. Tonight will be partly cloudy with a temperature of 77 degrees and a 30% chance of rain. The wind will be coming from the east, and the humidity will continue to stay at 90%. Later in the show, I'll be back to give you a look at the 5-day forecast. But for now, back to you, Hector and Brendan.
Coming up after the break, theme parks in Orlando are continuing to lay off their employees. Stay tuned to find out how some UCF students who work at the parks feel about the possibility of losing their jobs.
Also, some students' negative opinions about the student union dining options caught the attention of UCF SGA senators. We'll hear what they plan to do about it.
Welcome back to UCF Nightly News. Now, here's our international correspondent, Patricia Simón, with an update from Spain.
International tourism is decreasing in Spain due to the COVID-19 restrictions. Media sources report that Spain lost around 40 million tourists between January and August of this year. Millions of euros were lost due to tourists not visiting Spain during this past season, especially the months of July and August. Several countries, members of the Schengen area, require a COVID-19 test and possible quarantine when travelers come from Spain. On Tuesday, the Spanish Minister of Foreign Affairs, European Union and Cooperation, Arantxa González Laya, announced her intent to negotiate agreement with several European countries. This negotiation will aim to increase tourism in Balearic and Canary Islands. Now back to Orlando for some more nightly news.
Homecoming won't be a splash this year. Homecoming was originally scheduled October 18th to the 25th, but events like Concert Night, Comedy Night, and Spirit Splash are postponed until 2021. UCF officials stated that other events like Friday night fireworks and game watch parties will still be held, but with new health and safety measures. UCF says Homecoming Executive Committee, UCF Athletics, and UCF alumni are planning other opportunities to bring the UCF community together to celebrate school spirit. Tourism in Orlando is also experiencing some major declines. Theme parks are losing business because of COVID-19, and as a result, many employees are losing their jobs. Nightly News reporter Jenna Ehrlich tells us more.
Recently announced that the company would be terminating the positions of furloughed employees. SeaWorld has already let go of 90% of their employees this year. Though SeaWorld reopened under limited capacity, the park is still dealing with financial burdens from the ongoing pandemic. UCF senior and SeaWorld employee Asha Baheti says the subject of layoffs is nerve-wracking and she hopes she is not next on the chopping block.
Their experience has shown me that I'm definitely expendable to the company. It doesn't matter if I've been with the company for 6 months, like 7 years, or like one of my coworkers, 20 years. Anyone could be let go.
Universal and Disney have also laid off employees from lack of profit due to COVID-19. UCF junior and Disney employee Olivia Marrero says she does not fully understand why theme parks are having to lay off employees.
I don't understand it from a business perspective, why they would be doing it, but I think that companies like this make so much money. I don't see why they're doing it. They're going to make their money back regardless of whether they lay people off or not.
Former UCF theme park marketing professor Duncan Dixon says he is not surprised that theme parks are losing money and says those who are being furloughed should consider other options for income at this time.
Do something. Don't just wait or sit around and wait for the theme parks to come back. Get out and do something else. You've got skills. Utilize those skills.
Dixon says until airports start getting business again, theme parks will continue to suffer since most of their revenue is reliant on tourism. In Orlando, Jenna Ehrlich, UCF Nightly News.
Dixon says theme parks should be back to normal by 2022.
Dining options in the UCF Student Union are looking a bit different since the renovation. Nightly News reporter Peyton Majewski tells us more.
Students are flooding social media expressing their outrage over the dining options in the newly renovated Student Union. Topping the list of complaints is the lack of diversity in food options and the removal of small businesses. Who do students blame for the changes? UCF's food distributor, Aramark. Student Government Senator Jake Gould says seeing students' reactions on social media caused him to look into the subject.
But after reading all those posts about how students have said how basically Aramark's monopoly has really had a negative impact on UCF, that's when I realized there was a problem.
UCF signed a 10-year extension contract with the corporation in 2015. The contract includes the over $14 million renovation project, as reported by the Orlando Sentinel. Students say they fear Aramark's power is going unchecked by the university. Senator Gould is calling upon his fellow Senate members in order to make sure this is not the case.
As of right now, we really just have a group of senators who feel passionate about this topic assembled, and we exchange ideas.
Gould says he plans to read over the current contract and set up a meeting with the CEO of Aramark. I reached out to Aramark for a comment, but did not receive a response. In Orlando, Peyton Majewski, UCF Nightly News.
The UCF Aramark contract is set to expire in 2024.
The Knights Helping Knights Pantry is offering limited in-store appointments this semester. Nightly News reporter Charlotte Tratner has more on the story.
UCF's Knights Pantry continues to serve the UCF community during the COVID-19 pandemic. Students can either schedule a curbside pickup or in-store appointment online. But Pantry Manager Elias Valentine says the new system is creating some challenges.
It's been a little bit of a hassle, with trying to completely pivot to technology. There have been a little bit of bugs, issues with our doodle polls, clients sometimes getting differing appointment times.
Valentine says staffing is another challenge the facility is facing since the pantry reduced the number of volunteers allowed to work per shift. Student union staff members are helping supplement the loss of volunteers.
Because of social distancing protocols, only one student shopper is allowed in the pantry per appointment. The 15-minute appointments are staggered every 30 minutes, allowing Knights Pantry volunteer staff time to clean and disinfect surfaces.
But not all UCF students feel safe, even with the cleaning protocols in place. Junior biology student Ivan Santana says he will wait to see how dire his situation is before going to the pantry.
I'm going to opt out for now, but seeing how, and wait to see how things sort of develop, both in terms of my own personal financial situation and culinary situation versus how things are progressing in terms of the measures that not just Knights Pantry, but the school and the student body as a whole are taking.
Knights Pantry employees say they are working to ensure the facility can handle donations and the influx of students utilizing curbside pickup. However, they will continue making changes to their protocols throughout the semester. In Orlando, Charlotte Tratner, UCF Knightly News.
Knights Pantry is still accepting donations. Food donations can be dropped off at the pantry or any donation box around campus.
Coming up after the break, find out about a unique RSO that has accomplished the amazing within its first year.
Also, learn about how another RSO is preparing this fall semester with new guidelines.
UCF Knights of the Round Table hosts the annual Impact Awards, where registered student organizations are honored for their achievements. This year, one-of-a-kind RSO lands the top spot. Nightly News reporter Taylor Toole has the story.
Pool of over 650 registered student organizations, Knights Exemplar proves, well, exemplary. The RSO, a club geared towards serving students with special needs, winning Student Organization of the Year during its inaugural year at the 2020 Impact Awards. The Office of Student Involvement's website says this award goes to an organization showing the most consistent passion and engagement between the general student body and the RSO's members. Recent UCF graduate and KE founding president Taylor Duffy says it's a dream come true for him and his former VP, Andrea Doster.
It felt really amazing, and most importantly, it felt amazing for everyone involved. This was an organization that started in October.
While Duffy and Doster agree that this award is a huge achievement for their brainchild KE, they say COVID-19 has brought about its challenges when it comes to keeping meetings, now held through Zoom, engaging.
Between students having to graduate virtually, between classes now being online, it truly is just thinking, okay, let's redirect and let's try to go another direction.
Regardless of the pandemic and the awards the club receives, Doster says the Knights Exemplar mission remains the same.
We are the Knights Exemplar because we are aspiring to always be the better version of ourselves.
And for Duffy, so does the reason the club was started in the first place.
It allows us to diversify our own, knowledge base. It allows us to diversify our hearts.
You can keep up with all things KE by following them on Instagram at knights.exemplar. In Orlando, Taylor Toole, UCF Knightly News.
Thanks, Taylor. To learn more about Knights Exemplar, you can visit nicholsonstudentmedia.com or email them at ke@ucf.edu.
Registered student organizations are preparing for the fall semester with some new COVID-19 guidelines and regulations they must follow. UCF Knightly News reporter Hector García de León has more.
With student organizations on campus getting back into the swing of things, there are some new restrictions and guidelines RSOs have to follow this fall semester. Office of Student Involvement Director Shane Juntanen says these new guidelines are imperative for the safety of students.
And then the other one, which I think is probably the most critical, is asking the student organizations and challenging them is how are they going to make sure that they're accountable to maintaining and kind of enforcing and monitoring to make sure these safety measures are in place.
Although many RSO leaders are working on their plan of action, one RSO is taking a step back and focusing on its fundamentals. Mixed Mode is an award-winning a cappella group on campus that is getting creative with its plans to continue this semester. Music director Jessica Clunan says Mixed Mode is taking this semester to focus on the future.
It's the first time that Mixed Mode has really been able to slow down and sort of reevaluate what we want to do moving forward. So it's actually been a really great time for everyone to really understand, okay, why am I in this group?
A statement released by Vice President of Student Development and Enrollment Services, Maribeth Ihaz, instructs students to avoid meeting in groups of more than 12 people. She says this policy is meant to set clear expectations about how students can best care for one another. In Orlando, Hector García, UCF Knightly News.
If you're interested in learning more about RSO guidelines, please visit the UCF Knights Connect page for more information. Now to Stephen with the 5-day forecast and an update about hurricane season.
Here's your 5-day forecast. On Saturday, we're going to have a high of 89 and a low of 77 with 77% chance of rain. On Sunday, we're going to have a high of 89, low of 76 with 70% chance of rain. Monday, high of 91, low of 75, 60% chance of rain. On Tuesday, we're going to have a high of 91, a low of 76 with a 60% chance of rain. And finally on Wednesday, we're going to have a high of 90, low of 75 with a 60% chance of rain. So make sure you pack those umbrellas. The National Hurricane Center reports that this week is peak hurricane season, but hurricane prep takes more than just stocking up on groceries. In the event of a hurricane, UCF is prepping for environmental safety. The UCF Arboretum's hurricane plan involves cutting trees and securing hives. Patrick Bolin, UCF Arboretum Director, says that UCF hired contractors to trim trees in preparation for the hurricane season. Arboretum staff also work to secure beehives when a hurricane comes. The SAS Institute states that loss of bee colonies are at a record high. UCF is the only university in Florida that is a part of Bee Campus USA, a program that supports pollinator populations. Bolin says that the hives can be damaged during a hurricane, but that most bees will likely survive. However, damage from the storm may present challenges to the colonies.
When pollinators are trying to put down stores or collect resources,
And the storm is so powerful that it actually reduces access to some of those resources or diminishes their availability.
Most of the work happens after. Boland says preparation is key, but most of the work happens after the storm, when they clean up debris and replant damaged gardens as needed. To find out more about how UCF cares for the bees and trees, head over to arboretum.ucf.edu. That's all I have today for your weather. Now back to you, Hector and Brendan.
Coming up in sports, see how UCF's cheerleaders' first practice with COVID-19 guidelines kicked off this week.
Also, you might not be able to play in a flag football league this semester, but stay tuned to find out what socially distanced tournament UCF Intramurals is offering.
UCF is making NFL headlines this week. The Buffalo Bills named former Knights wide receiver Gabriel Davis offensive rookie standout in their training camp. And the Eagles are cutting 12 players, one being former UCF running back Adrian Killins Jr. Next Saturday, the Knights are heading to Atlanta to play Georgia Tech. 10 players have opted out of this season, but those players won't lose eligibility for the NCAA. Defensive back Devontae Dawson took to Twitter saying he's here to stay, followed by other players who showed their support. Face-to-face practices for UCF cheerleaders started this week with some new guidelines in place. On Monday, the coaches and 33 cheerleaders reunited for the start of the season. New guidelines for safety have been added, including temperature checks before entering practice, social distancing, and contactless stunts. UCF's cheer head coach Linda Gooch says adapting is challenging, but the team is game for anything.
The UCF Spirit team, as well as the Marching Knights, will be hyping up the crowd at the first home game on October 3rd.